Yeah. So ChatGPT explained that's the reason why you're here. I hope not the only reason, because we have so many amazing people here. And I guess the real thing for today is the networking part. And also, obviously, Andrius' presentation. I mean, we should never have too much money. Like, look at ChatGPT. They have like 29 billion. They made this nice chatbot. That makes sense, right? So unfortunately, this like chatbot also generates bullshit. Let me explain you what I mean. But before I do that, if at some point you would like to connect with me or would like to learn more about the Artificial Intelligence Association of Lithuania, maybe Vinted, maybe you want to study in college, the best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. I enjoy talking with people about things that I know, and these three things are the things that I do know. So if you want to chat about it, reach out and we can chat about it. So as always, we are very timely. So it took us more than 10 weeks to do a presentation about ChatGPT. Probably the most important thing that happened like in at least a year in artificial intelligence space, at least the most visible to the general public in definitely like a big while. I think this is bigger than the great generative vision models which we had at the beginning of the year. And ChatGPT is like the thing that is on everybody's mind. Is it going to kill Google? Is it going to like make universities obsolete? Can I fire all my coders because it can write code? It's the thing, the first, maybe even the first thing that this newest generation of AI models have done for the general public. So we are only 10 weeks late to tell you about it. One thing that I want to tell you is this is not the Messiah. And you might have guessed it from the title, which was like model that generates bullshit. So even though it's like, it can do amazing things, but it's not the general artificial intelligence that some people think it is. So who are these people? There is this one guy, actually co-founder of OpenAI. Surprisingly, he was always the co-founder of OpenAI until he, done Twitter things. And now he's like never the co-founder, or if he is, he's like the last among like other 5 people. But like what Dylan is saying is, it's so good we are close to dangerous, strong AI. So I would maybe agree with the dangerously part, but not strong AI. We are pretty far away from the strong part. There's this person, I think it's safe to say that this person knows a bit more about how machine learning works than Elon Musk. Although I'm not saying that Elon is like dumb or anything, but he's not the technical person. But Jan LeCun is, and Jan LeCun, I think, has a pretty, I would say, reasonable take on what ChatGPT is. He's not saying they are useless. He's just saying that these are not a strong AI or AGI or super intelligence, or the next iteration is going to be the super intelligence. So probably not. Probably, I mean, no one knows, but that's my like current understanding of how these things work. They are not going to be the thing that we saw in movies or things like that. This is just Jan LeCun repeating the whole like 20 things that he said. So they're not AGI panacea, and they're not going to destroy the society either. How he got inspired by the title for this talk, or a subtitle for this talk, is by Casey. Actually, I really like Casey, as some of you might know. I think she's doing like amazing work. She's making AI understandable by the general public, but she's not dumbing it down so that you understand it incorrectly. She's trying to make everything as correct as possible, but not overwhelm you with the details. So if you haven't heard of Casey, Making Friends with Machine Learning, it's a really good course if you haven't done it yet, especially if you're not an AI expert. Even if you are, it's still worth watching, because you can always use that to explain to your friends or your mother what you actually do at work. So Casey is saying that ChatGPT does not provide you always correct information. It generates misinformation, and therefore, occasionally, misinformation is not correct. At least one thing that I thought I knew about ChatGPT is that it's a language model, but not everybody agrees. By the way, who knows Jeremy Howard? Oh, the next generation of AI experts. Like maybe 4 years ago, everybody knew Jeremy. Jeremy was the guy, the person who taught us how to use PyTorch, and previously even TensorFlow and Keras, and how to use PyTorch with FastAI, the original teacher of all the deep learning things. Now he moved to Australia, doesn't do that much, but still a great guy, but claims that it's not even large language model. I think Jeremy here is being a bit of an edgelord and like trying to prove his point that he knows a lot about it, but I could agree in a way, and we'll learn why, in a way, we can see ChatGPT as a not only language model. I have some assumptions for this presentation, assumptions for you. So first of all, I hope that all of you have heard about ChatGPT, or even some of you have used it. So who has heard about it? Yeah, everybody. I mean, like heard it like more than this presentation's title, like more than like I know what it does in like some kind of sense. All right. So who has tried it? Wow, everybody. Amazing. Another thing is, I hope that because of your trying it or knowing about it, you can understand where it's useful and where it's not useful. For example, if I want to learn about best events happening in Vilnius next week, is ChatGPT a good source for information? So who thinks it's like, yeah, ChatGPT will summarize everything that's happening, such so convenient? Raise your hands. Would you use ChatGPT for that? Okay. Who thinks that it's not a good idea? Okay, it's not even interesting for me. Everybody knows. So ChatGPT is not a search engine. It's a language model. It was trained at some point, maybe continuously updated. There's a lot of funny stuff going about openness and OpenAI. One more thing before I start is this content was not generated by ChatGPT. It's a very funny joke. Everybody has tried it in the past 10 weeks. So don't try to, oh, this must be generated. It's like so incoherent. Maybe Dovydas will just create the whole presentation by ChatGPT. So don't be detectives trying to find it. Just spend your time actually listening. Also, ChatGPT wouldn't make this like mistake, DPNT. So you know it's me because it's full of grammar mistakes. My main topic actually for this presentation is this, that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I want you, by the end of the session, understand that ChatGPT is not magic. I want you to understand how it works, what it can do, what it cannot do, and like, I want it to be boring for you. I want to remove all the magical aspects of ChatGPT. I want you to be like not impressed at all that people like Elon says, oh, it's dangerously close to strong AI. I want you to call bullshit. That's not true. It's just a dumb model that like visualizes, that generates text. That's it. So that's our goal. That's what I aim to give you tonight. And these are the steps how we're going to do. So first, I assume that you don't know a lot about the underlying technologies. If you do, congrats, you're very smart. You should like take up Jeff on his offer and apply for Vinted. But if you don't, then this is for you. This is not meant to be very advanced presentation. I'm not gonna go into like, so how exactly the self-attention works, because that would take a lot of time, and it's like, it's best to read the book or actually watch. There's a great person visualizing how attention works and how transformers works. Amazing job, like understanding it visually is like 10 times easier than just trying to read about the attention blocks. So these are the steps that we're gonna follow. So let's start with the transformers. And transformers are like this very famous paper by Vaswani and like I think 4 other collaborators in 2017, which was attention is all you need. So with this, they introduced the transformer architecture. Attention, by the way, it doesn't say transformer in the title. It says attention. Attention was known for quite a while before that. It was, I think, studied since 2013 or 14, but it was used with recurrent neural networks. Now we have like this removal of recurrent neural networks from the equation and just leaving the attention. And that was the birth of the transformers. So transformers, in the end, they really revolutionized all of machine learning. I think like 2 years ago, I've done a presentation about transformers. Well, I think it was, I did it, I think exactly 2 or 3 years ago. This was the beginning of the year, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be the year of transformers. I think it was 1 year too early, but now finally transformers, they have taken over the world. And they're used for pretty much everything. Initially, it was NLP, because NLP was the most lacking. Then later, computer vision and a lot of other applications, so including drug discovery, robotics, actually anything you can imagine. Even the generative models that were presented, like a few meetups ago, they have transformer components in them as well. So transformers are based on this self-attention mechanism. What's important for the self-attention is kind of like allows the model to pay attention to different parts of the input, and it does that not like sequentially, but you would have in like recurrent neural networks, like step by step, but you can do that all in one shot. So they're like amazingly parallelizable, and this parallelization was the reason why we kind of became later not only transformers, but large language models. So they became really big. Why? Like we had language models forever. Like actually, Jeremy had amazing presentations about like the usefulness of language models. I think it kind of, I don't want to like lie, don't remember exactly, but I think Word2Vec was one of the first like attempts to do like language model, and we had them for like forever now. So large language models, these are like distinguishable. The first L is very important because there is a difference between like machine learning and deep learning, and like neural networks and deep neural networks. So this is like as important. This first L is as important as this like deep neural network is to just the neural network. BERT was actually the first transformer model, really got popular. It's actually still popular, like still the default choice most of the time is just use BERT, or some of its like alternatives like Roberta, Distal BERT. There's like a huge family of transformer models that are like based on BERT. The number of parameters, as you see, has grown by a super like I don't want to say exponentially, but they grow like 3 orders of magnitude. So initially BERT, which was large, we thought like, wow, it's large, it's a large model, was 110 million parameters. GPT-3 is more than 100 times, more than 1,000 times bigger. Let that sink in. So what is this GPT? And here, like, GPT was announced, as you see, at a pretty similar time as BERT, like a year later. The idea, there's quite a big difference between BERT and GPT. We're actually not that very big, but they kind of like the whole transformer architecture has 2 parts. They have encoders and decoders. So BERT was encoder family, I guess, grandfather, and GPT was the decoder part family. So what are encoders good for? Encoders like take the text and they kind of squeeze it until you can use this useful representation for something else. And decoders, they're mainly for like outputting the results that they're optimized and they work better at like generating stuff. Obviously, there is like a huge overlap. There's like also encoder-decoder models. There's obviously BERT can be used for generating stuff and GPT can be used for like encoding stuff. But all in all, it's just like the underlying ideas there are more suited towards one or the other. So BERT is very useful for like classify the text or like identify sentence parts. And GPT is very useful for generating stuff. Therefore, it's like G, generate. So it was GPT that popularized transfer learning for NLP. As you see, it was very early, but if I'm not mistaken, it was the model that actually solved the big issue that we always have with NLP, or I guess there was no mainstream solution. We had like computer vision, which always benefited from transfer learning, except like in special cases like medical imaging or like satellite imaging. We kind of always used a pre-trained computer vision model to do something. And that was not an option for language models. You kind of like before transformers, we had LSTMs, and LSTMs were just like you take this like raw LSTM and you train it on the data that you have. It's like you always start from scratch. And here GPT said like, hey, you can now use a pre-trained model to use even on a very small corpus of text. So after GPT, we had improvements. So GPT was introduced in 2018. So 2019, we had a great idea. Let's just make it 10 times bigger. We made it 10 times bigger, but did some like super minor adjustments, like pretty much as close of doing nothing else, just making it 10 times, having it 10 times more parameters as we can get. They got GPT-2. What we also did is we get 10 times more data. Turns out that's very important. The number of parameters and the amount of data. And both of these, like having these 2 things, pretty much directly leads to better performance. So the number of parameters and data increased 10 times. GPT-3 increased the number of parameters 100 times. Do you want to guess, is GPT-3 very different from GPT-2 or for that matter, GPT-1? So who thinks it's pretty much exactly the same? Few hands. And you are right, my friends. It's exactly the same. I mean, to scale it, they had to make like very minor adjustments because it doesn't scale that easily just to be 100 times bigger. But it's the same lazy model that they came up with in 2018. And they used the same, I mean, I'm just saying that it was a great idea in 2018. They could have scaled, they just scaled it to be bigger and it kept on working. So that's amazing. So GPT was trained GPT-3 was trained on a lot of data. And this was the year when, again, I think we made like a few friends in the association had made like, yeah, this is the year, now is the year of AI, like it's gonna change everything. And it was pretty popular, like we generated some interesting text, but it was not like super available, I guess, super visible in the general public, because the model was never really released. They have eventually released GPT-2, I think after like, was it a year before it was initially announced? They have open sourced it, but they have never really open sourced GPT-3. So what we did is made an API, and this API is like shielding us from understanding what's exactly underneath. They tell us that it's like very similar, and that it's very similar to GPT-2. We have a paper, but it was the first time that they have like not open sourced it. Also, we have like very interesting case of GPT 3.5. So these GPT 3.5 models are actually just an update on GPT 3. I'll get into a bit more what we mean when we go to instruct GPT, but in short, we have like this code model. So if you remember Copilot from GitHub, so that's the basis for these 3.5 models. So actually we had the code generating model as a starting point, not the text generating model, but the code generating model. They like fine-tuned it. I'm not even sure what exactly happened, but when they fine-tuned it, they got like instruct GPT, then they improved it. Again, they just say improved in their blog post because there are no articles, no papers. They improved it, and then we got these like another text DaVinci 003. So that's the latest available model. That's not ChatGPT. That's also not InstructGPT. If you are confused, you are in the right. I'm also still confused after trying to research this like for the past week. But it gets a bit clearer. The clearer part is the InstructGPT. And this is where most of the magical ideas actually come together. So first of all, we have like this really good idea that, hey, like we have made a model that humans actually use. Let's just fine tune it to make it like usable by humans. And what we did is we gathered human feedback. So first case of using reinforcement learning from human feedback. I'm not sure if anyone did that before OpenAI. Maybe there's like a paper who've done it. I'm not aware of it, but really great idea, really worked for them. So as you see, like 1.3 billion InstructGPT worked better than 175 billion GPT-3 as evaluated by humans. So that's insane. You saved so much space, so much complexity, and humans think it's way better. Actually, not a little bit better, but a lot better. So this is how it was. These are how things compare. There's obviously like wrong scale, which starts from 2, or actually not in this case. In this case, it's correct. But the evaluations, they differ quite a bit. So it was a scale from 1 to 7, and you see that people this is how much people like the outputs of the models, how they think, how good they are. And people think that InstructGPT is like way better. So how else InstructGPT is better than just GPT? So first of all, it's way less toxic, it's way more truthful, it's way less hallucinating. It's not as good as the supervised fine-tuning, like obviously, because this kind of forces you to stay realistic. And it's the last one is, I think, how again humans evaluated it as helpful. So it kind of improved on all these aspects that we as humans consider important. One last thing, I don't think I have a lot of time for training, but we have used very interesting training routine. So first we kind of trained the model like just regularly. Then we got like labeled feedback, improved with that. Then they took this model, they generated a lot of outputs, and then they asked humans to rate which of these answers we like the best. They used that information to train the reward model, so an additional model, which they then used for their reinforcement learning part to be this, like to help the real model get rewards for what the reward model considered to be good outputs versus like not good outputs. So it's pretty interesting. You can read that about in both InstructGPT and ChatGPT papers. We really like the slides. It's in both papers. They both are actually articles. There are no papers. And now we have arrived at ChatGPT. So I hope that you by now see there is no magic. It's all iterative improvement. And if you can understand a language model or a transformer, you understand that it's just bigger. Like GPT-3 is just a very big transformer, like large language model. InstructGPT, it's just the GPT-3 that's trained to be likable, the outputs to be liked by humans. Like only provide the outputs that humans will rate highly in their likeness scale. And ChatGPT is the same InstructGPT, actually not the same. It's a bit different. Again, no one knows how different except for OpenAI. It's similar model that's under the chat user interface. So there is not a lot of actual machine learning interestingness, although we don't know because there is no paper, there is nothing open source, we can only guess, but it seems to be very similar to InstructGPT. It's just able to interact with this chat interface. So one more thing, which they actually also had in their article, InstructGPT was not very good at being released to the public. So if you asked InstructGPT to how to bully somebody, it would happily describe the best ways to bully people. If you wanted to rob a bank, it would happily instruct you how to rob a bank. If you want to hotwire a car, it would do that. So it would do like anything you asked and try to make the output the way that you think it's helpful. So ChatGPT, why I'm saying it's most likely, and why we are coming back to what Jeremy says, it's not a language model. There is a system of models. So there's another, like definitely at least one more model which detects when you're trying to do something bad and puts a warning label. There is also a lot of like mystery going on with how it kind of does this chat interface, because it's pretty hard for language models to operate with a lot of inputs. And here they can like work with pretty much the whole conversation, even ask ChatGPT to summarize what you talked about, and it will be able to do that. That's interesting and probably not something that InstructGPT could do. So there are a few innovations here, but they're all step by step. They're all iterative. ChatGPT is not that smart, so I'm not sure how much you've seen of ChatGPT fail. This is one of my ones. So as a human, do you know the answer to this question? Like a test, Turing test, are you smarter than ChatGPT? Right. Like isn't somebody who didn't got it? You haven't got it? All right. Oh, it's fine. We humans, we are not very fast, but figure it out eventually. And here you can see ChatGPT can do it. Another thing is another thing that they liked. It's not failed per se, but obviously something interesting with Lacoon and Hinton and Benchio. So I'll give you a very short minute to read it. The message here is that ChatGPT will try to comply if you're not malicious. It will do its best. It's like the co-worker, which is just trying to be helpful, not necessarily knows what they are talking about, but gives their best shot. If you ask them to make a joke, they'll try to do a joke. Sometimes the joke is like, this doesn't work. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it knows what it's doing, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm ending with this part. It's all hallucinated in the end, but these hallucinations, they can be useful if you know how to use them. If you understand that it's bullshit underneath these and not facts. Like if you ask for papers, it will happily generate you some like randomly paperish title-looking papers. It will also generate archive links, but these probably are not going to be like workable links. These might not even be real papers. It will try its best, but it's just hallucination at the end. And because it's bullshit, I would very much recommend you to understand how to check bullshit. So what I'm leaving you with is read this Calling Bullshit book or do the course by Bergstrom and Best. I've done the course like a couple of years ago, and I see the value in it because you're not only safe from fake news and stuff like that, but you'll also be safe of not being tricked by ChatGPT. There's a short demo that I want to show you about how to detect ChatGPT. So we have like two apps that can help you. We have GPT-0, and we also have AI content detector. So we're gonna do this test. We actually have like Casey, which I used quite a bit in this in my presentation. She has an article, and it was done at that point in time in December 8th, when it was cool to generate text, like generate article text, and then later say, haha, it was ChatGPT all along. So this is what she did. And let's try to get like a snippet of this text and see if like our detectors detect if it's GPT or real humans. So this one failed. I knew this happened because I tried it at home. I was disappointed. So it thinks it's fully human, and you can prove it's not fully human because there is a screenshot of ChatGPT doing it. And this one, most likely written by a human, with some sentences of a bit low perplexities. So here, don't be like overly reliant by the tools. The tools might improve. I just chose two random tools like recommended by Twitter. But even though we know for a fact that this was generated by ChatGPT, you kind of have to be smart yourself. You have to understand how to tell this bullshit yourself. And last thing I want to show you is there's this, I didn't have time to go into this, but there's this whole scene of people trying to jailbreak ChatGPT. So you put different queries and then trick ChatGPT into telling you how to make bombs and how to rob banks. There is a lot of creativity, human creativity in that. These things stopped working. So even this updated 1 hour ago, Dan jailbreak, I tried it like maybe 2 hours ago, didn't work anymore. So these are like very rapidly being patched by OpenAI. But initially, when it was released in December and January, it was like full of holes, and it was like very, very easy to trick ChatGPT into telling you anything you want. So that's all I have. Now it's time for your questions. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for this presentation. It was really interesting. And actually, I have a question. The thing is that my team, I am a CEO and founder of media company, a few days ago decided to try this ChatGPT just for fun, just to see if it will be helpful in our content strategy. And in reality, it was not working for us. So ChatGPT has generated just kind of very simple words, very simple text, and we were expecting this. So it was nothing surprising for us. But maybe we have some opportunity to use ChatGPT to improve our content strategy.
I guess try. I'm not sure how much prompt engineering have you tried. So the question, like I'll summarize the question very quickly. So the problem was that you tried to use it for your content creation and you were not happy with the results, right?
Actually, as I mentioned before, we were not kind of thinking that we will get perfect content, just decided to try. But in reality, as I realized today, we can use it for looking for ideas or sharing ideas. So, for example, yesterday I was thinking it's GPT in our tests will not work, but maybe we can use it for looking for ideas, for some inspiration or something like this.
Yeah, so I guess you answered your own question. You're just trying to value out of it. You said it yourself, it can be valuable for ideas. Try some prompt engineering, that's asking the question in a different way. OpenAI says that in their own blog posts, like it's quite sensitive to your initial formulation. And as you can see, it can like pretty much, you can paste the whole paragraph. You can add a lot of instructions like be as detailed as possible, write very officially, write as a selling material, like add those extra information, extra instructions for the model, and then it will get the results more, it will get more similar results to what you were expecting.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Go ahead.
I think there is a, if you go one slide back.
Maybe one more.
One more. with this example that you had with Geoffrey Hinton, and yeah. For me, for example, it seems like to generate this, you need a very different model from the one that generates you some give me description of that, give me description of that. Because here, well, like if I was a person writing this, I suddenly have to think like Geoffrey Hinton was thinking. I have to think like Kuhn was thinking. Suddenly, I have to different mindsets, their vision of the world, load the data, how behaved in the world, and generate that stuff. For me, even working in this sphere, this seems a little bit still magic because I do not understand how how they make this. Maybe you have an idea how they do this in this way.
Yeah, so the question was, even though this seems really smart, like this seems that there's reasoning behind the model, right?
Even more, you have to imagine that person's.
There is also empathy, right?
Of the world.
Empathy and understanding of different people's worldviews. So my answer is actually, there is no magic. There is just the things that I've shown you, just very few simple evolutionary steps. It got optimized by making the outcomes, making the outputs so that we like them. it got much more powerful and much more knowledgeable by increasing the number of parameters 100 times, actually 1,000 times, and 10,000 if you think from like GPT first. And these step-by-step improvements, yeah, that's why we have this presentation, because it's very, very good. It can create, like it can solve, it can write code, it can write poetry, it can generate songs, it can solve even math problems, even though not as good as people claim. There was a recent paper on that it kind of fails a lot, but it can optimize code, it can find bugs in your code. So it's, but actually that's just the of scaling the models. We have very, very similar thing with computer vision, that initially it looked like, oh, it can't do anything. And then later we got like superhuman performance, like convolutional neural networks still are super amazing, like still superhuman performance in a lot of tasks. Same with GANs. First GANs, total crap, right? Latest GANs, indistinguishable from humans. Like you can't tell, people giving awards to the image generating models, right? Thinking they're like done by humans. So it's just a matter of scaling the thing and not any, emerging reasoning or emerging consciousness. We have a question in the back.
I was wondering, well, one thing is the model complexity, but the other thing is the resultant outcome that we observe. And if this is bullshit, then what constitutes not bullshit?
So I should have explained what I mean by bullshit. It was in the very first slides. Let me get back here. It's Casey I need you. So the essence of bullshit is unconcerned with truth. It's not a liar, because to be a liar, you must know the truth and intend to mislead. So ChatGPT is different. It doesn't have anything to check if the information that it has in its neural network is correct or incorrect. It just gives you the most statistically probable answer that you're gonna like. That's the InstructGPT part. And just so happens that it's a lot of the times it's actually true. But if you do a bit more complex tasks, for example, like ChatGPT notoriously fails at explaining regex. It will confidently tell you, like, this is what it does, but that's not going to be true. So this is what I mean by bullshit. It can't tell what's true from what isn't.
I get your point, but isn't that just like the beginnings of what humans do, what we as the truth is? Because while growing up, we just consume a lot of information surrounding context, and basically every second we're alive, we're making those probabilities automatically, and at the end of the day, we know what is the truth. We're just guessing based on probabilities, and a lot of that is unconsciously made. So it's like, you could say it's a very simple version or the first steps.
Well, you're absolutely, so I'm not sure if you talk quite loudly, even without the mic, so I hope that most of the people have heard her, so I'm not gonna repeat, but you're absolutely right. It's the same thing that humans do. This is why we have a word for it. This is why this word even is like this metaphorical word bullshit, because it's so common. This is why we have the course calling bullshit way, way, way before ChatGPT, because we do that to each other all the time, especially if you work in certain companies. I hope that answers your question. I completely agree with what you're saying, so I hope that's okay.
No, I just wanted to challenge skepticism, because I think it's very common in our field to be skeptical of those new technologies because they are very overhyped, and the natural reaction is to be skeptical, but other converting the outputs and then trying with it myself and see how my circles adapted. I'm still very impressed of the outputs
and you should be. It's okay. I don't want to like kill the hype or anything like that. My goal is to show it's not. We understand how the internal workings of this. I saw more questions there. In the back.
With the number of parameters growing, how does this reflect on energy usage of the per query or based not like will this or is it possible to optimize it?
So that's a very good question. The question was the number of parameters are growing. The chart actually, it's not about parameters. Get the chart, yeah. It's not the parameters, it's the compute used. So certain ways of training, certain architectures are more energy efficient, but obviously more parameters means work. I think that's the question. So just an answer that. So I think personally, the Instruct GPT is genius in this regard because it achieves, like it doesn't now rely solely on the number of parameters to get better. It's another variable, like how much fine tuning on the model so that like the outputs. If you manage to do that with, I don't know, fullness or healthiness, we'll achieve these like much better outcomes even with the same number of parameters. Right? I see this here. Do you need the mic?
I don't need a mic. I see the topic of consciousness language models is quite interesting to people. If remember, I mentioned conference NeurIPS at the start. By the way, these are where most of these papers have been published. Last year in NeurIPS 2022, Jev Gamper, one of the philosophers in the area of consciousness, was giving a talk there about thinking critically about the capability of large language models when it's consciousness. So I really recommend watching that talk. They very constructively about the capability for consciousness models. It's David Chalmers, NeurIPS 2022. Available online. Check that talk. Just wanted to out, and then our next we'll talk about AI startup funding. So take about 10 minutes. Andrius, yes.
Gali man tą dokumentą paleisti?
Aha, aš tik yra bit of a problem, kad aš negavau.
Negavai.
Galbūt jis yra. Oh, finally.
Yeah.
Nope, I didn't. Kamila, gal gali atsiųsti dokumentą?
Okay, well, Camilla, well, we manage everything, so a short info. I'm going to talk a little bit English, but later on I'm going to switch to the Lithuanian language because we're going to see the boring part. But there is, for the beginning, especially for these guys who don't talk Lithuanian language, so there is upcoming one program where you can raise up to 100,000 euros for artificial intelligence, robotics automation, and blockchain technology. It's not research and development, it's just where you can create something, connect something, and so on, make a product, apply for this kind of amount of money. As it's kind of tricky, I'm gonna switch to Lithuanian language, but I'm suggesting for you kind of in the market, I see that there are quite a lot of young, nice technical people, but usually they're kind of afraid. They have challenges creating the product, but another challenge is kind of was not faced very to all this agency part and this financial part. So usually quite big challenge is here. So for these who don't have experience in such kind of thing, so call me on Slack or on LinkedIn, and I'm gonna what I wanna say in English. I'm gonna lead you through all the process if you're especially foreigner people and so on. Now, so yeah, like I said, 100,000 mainly artificial intelligence blockchain, and the code gonna be open. We hope it's not even open yet. We hope it's gonna be open even this month or in the beginning of the next. And then we have 2 months, minimum 2 months for preparation. So nothing is burning, and you're on time. Please contact if you're interested in applying for such meet. Now I will proceed with the email.
Nežinau, gal girdėsis. Tai, kaip ir minėjau visiems, sakau, tikrai noriu pats asmeniškai ir asociacijos vardu pagloboti tuos, kam tai yra challenge'as, apart to, kad jūs turite dar kažką sukurti toj priemonėje. Tai tie veikliai, kurie ten yra pažengę, žino, moka, viskas ten, kad ir mes pasiskambintum, turbūt iš to labai daug nebūtų, galvom palinksėtum ir tam taip toliau. Šitą priemonę gimė 2,5 metų atgal, tikrai didelis dėkui ir aš dar pats Valmierai dirbau, buvau prikišęs prie kūrimo. Atėjo koronos atitinkimai, turim ką turim, nes po 2,5 metų. Dar nepaleista antra versija pagrindinio mūsų dokumento projektų finansavimo sąlygo aprašas, ypač tos naujokus, šitas dokas lydės visą kelią, bent jau pradžiai, kol jūs paruošėt tą paraišką. Nieko baisaus, tikrai noriu nuraminti, sukit galvas apie idėjas, šitą mes sutvarkysim. Kreipkitės, LinkedInas, Lekas, Andrius Marcinkevičius. Grubiai, kaip atrodo, nedariau prezentacijos, kad kaip tai baisiai atrodys, vienas iš pirmųjų dokumentų, kurį atsiversit, jį reikia persiskaityti visą ir labai norėčiau, kad į naujoko dokumentas kažkaip atrodytų, kai jūs jį persiskaitysite. Pasižymėti svarbių tikrai yra ir taip toliau. Prasideda dokumentas, čia gal šiek tiek vėlgi atrodo, kad čia mes kažką suprantam, dirbtinis intelektas, kiekvieną interpretuojam kitaip, kad ir tokius dalykus turit persiskaityti, kaip agentūra supranta, kas yra dirbtinis intelektas. Laiko turim nedaug, tai bėgu per dalykus, bet sakau, su naujokais galim atskirų susidimų. Dabar naujokam ir reikliam sostinės tas regionas, ar ne, ir dar perskaitykit. Galimi pareiškėjai, Lietuvoje registruotos mažos įmonės, kūrenčios ar ketinančios kurti produktus sostinės regioną. Čia, kas giliau pasigilinę, yra išskaidyta į sostinės regioną ir vidurio vakarų, vien dėl to, kad ten dėrėjosi mūsų vyriausybė apie milijardų pareis finansavimui visam su Europos Sąjunga. Tai Vilniaus regionas gerai, likusi Lietuva varo blogai, dėl to jie įsidėrėjo tokias sąlygas, kad vienas priemonės į regionus, kitos kažkas į sostinės lėš. Kaip ir interpretuosi, sakau, dar yra tokių kabliukų tikrai ne vienas. Tęsiam, bet šiaip tai visi naujokai, nesukat galvos, registruojat Vilniui mažąją bendriją, 16 € berods online ir esat tinkamas pareiškėjas aplainti šitą. Toliau jau buhalteriniai reikalai, pasiskaičiavimai, verslo planas, idėja. Partneriai negalimi, reiškia, eina tik tai tas UABas, ar ne? Visas skolas bus skaidomas į 2 etapus. Tai yra pirmą kvietimą ir antrą kvietimą. Pirmas kvietimas, ko mes laukiam, tarkim, kovo 1, tai PIP projektų gyvendinimo planas, PIPas tik tai pirmąją stadiją. Apie stadijas tuo dar prieisim, pakalbėsim. Antras kvietimas seks po 7 mėnesių. Tai jeigu kovo 1, tai kažkada rugsėjo, turbūt 1, ar ne, bus antras. Didžiausias, kaip ir sakiau, 102 000, iki 102 000, vienas PIPas, vienas projektas. Finansavimo suma 100%, savo nereikia nieko, tai yra gera priemonė, ganėtinai lengva priemonė, tai tikrai siūlyčiau pasinaudoti, pagalvokit. Pakelkit rankas, kai žinot, kas yra de minimis. 3 žmonės. Registruojat UABą, Lietuvos valstybė, kiekvienam UABui, mažoje bendrijoje, duoda 200 000 virtualių monopolio pinigų, kuriuos galite naudoti tam priemonėm, nes šita priemonė, šitas biudžetas ir yra iš to de minimis biudžeto. Tai tarkim, aplainsim, ten paskui matysim, teilius, vienas teilius 20 000, kitas po 7 mėnesių 60 000. Turit 200 000 per paskutinius 3 slenkančius metus. Gausit šitą paramą 20, lyg 180, dar 60, lyg 20. 3 metai, kai praeina, ar neatsistatinėja tos sumos. Čia yra tokia valstybės pagalba, valstybės pagalbos tokia forma, ar ne? Nebijokit nieko, skaičiai, pirmas etapas iki 20 000, antras etapas iki 100, trečias iki 120. Čia dabar irgi gerai prieinam prie tų etapų, ne, į ką aplainti. Jo, gerai. Tai va, pirma stadija, matom visas stadijas, ne? Pirma stadija, antra paramos stadija, trečia paramos stadija. Čia vėlgi, jeigu mes paskaitysim, čia man dar irgi nesueina, reikės ministerija, kai jau gausim paskutinę PFSA tikrai versiją, tai tada dar reikės pasiskambinti, išsiaiškinti, kiek galėsiu atliepsiu ten visiems klausimus, išsiaiškinsim, parašysim Slack'e, bet pretenduojant į pirmą paramos stadiją, parengta ataskaita, kurioje pateikiama sprendimo, apibūdinimo, pateikiama vizija, tikslų apibrėžimas ir strategijas. Tarsi nieko labai daug reikia, tiesiog apie savo grubią idėją, apie savo situaciją, ką turit, kokius modelius, ką planuojat, kažkokį tai stokį, atsakau. Juodo ant balto skaitom šitą ir kaip tai yra parašyta ir kaip tai iš po ministerijos, ar ne? Yra planinami 20 000. Bus vertinimo komisija, jie pasižiūri, dar vėliau prie vertinimo balų prieisim. Jeigu ten OK, potencialo yra, gauna 20 000, bildinat MVP. Į antrą paramos stadiją pristatomas blokų grandies sprendimo produkto prototipas, pateikiama sprendimo prototipo aprašymas, būdingas esminis funkcionalumas be kažkokių ten galutinių dizainų. Bent jau antroje stadijoje, kad ir per command line, bet kažkokį prototipą parodyti, kad jis ten veikia, geba, modelis ten patreinintas, interpretuoja kažkokį accuracy ir kažko be galutinių funkcionalumų, bet reikalingi. Į trečią, didžiausią dalį, tai yra pristatomas blokų grandinės produktas su galutiniais dizainais ir verslo planas, tai su visom analizėm, valio. Ir čia galim pretenduoti į 102 000 market fit, kaip ir, sakykime, analizė. Čia MVP, tenai tokia kaip po galimybių studija, sakykime, su verslo plano užuomazgom ištas. Sakau, čia dar irgi. Man pačiam iki galo nėra labai tiksliai aišku, kaip parašyta, nes gali truputėlį painterpretuoti. O tada reikia žiūrėti, grįžtam biškį prie va šitų atskaičių, ar ne? Nes čia tricky part yra galbūt į kurią čia stadiją, kada čia, kaip čia dabar man elgtis, kai turiu vienokius komponentus, kaip atitinkama gausių situacija. Tai sakau, kol kas tai bus pirmas skolas ir jisai po 7 mėnesių tik išeis galimybė iš 6 arba 120, kol kas mes pradedam bent jau tiek, kaip ministerija sako, nuo 20 000. Ganėtinai saugu pateikti kažkokią savo viziją, aprašyti, jeigu ten potencialo yra, ten į ką jūs tikite, tai manau, kad tikrai verta dalyvauti. Vėlgi, kai prieinam ten prie verslo planų ir visų šitų idėjų, dar yra svarbus dalykas, vertinimo kriterijai, ar ne? Tai vien tai, kad pirmam tam kvietimui 20 000, kaip ir sakiau, UABas, veikiantis neilgiau nei 5 metus, kuriantis dirbtinio intelekto reikalus, ar ne? Į antrą kvietimą, į tą MVP dalį, jeigu norite aplainti, tai netrumpiau negu 6 mėnesius. Su ta mintim ir padarytas tas pirmas etapas, aplainį 20 000, ar ne? Kad šitą reikalavimą 7 mėnesių bus antras kol. Net dabar užreginę UABą atitiksit šitą reikalavimą eigoj. Aplainat į 1 000, praeina 6 kiek reikalavimą, jūs esat validus iškėjęs antram etapui. Tai irgi biški pasimodeliuoti tarp tų, ką turit, ar tai tik tai dar idėja, kurią reikia aprašyti ir einam su 20 000, ar turim kažkokį MVP ir norim čia dalyvauti, galbūt ir čia dalyvauti, ar jau turim užkurtą produktą ir reikia market fitui, aplainam į šitą produktą važiuojantis ir taip toliau. Tai sakau, nestresuojam, pasidarysim atskirą kolą, Slack'e susirašom, kai bus PFSA galutinė versija ir padalyvausim. Reikia pamodeliuoti, taip tricky, sakau, ypač noriu tiem reikliukam, potencialiems reikliams padėti. O dar grįžtant prie bendrųjų reikalavimų, vėlgi, pirmam ir antram kvietimui rinkos potencialas. Jeigu ten nėra, tai gausit 1 balą, jeigu yra, gausit 5 balus. Tai taip reikia kažkaip tais pačiam biškį atsisėdus irgi pasižiūrėti, ar tu rinksi ten balų, ar nerinksi balų. Tai jeigu nerinksi, gal neverta labai ten ir dalyvauti. Tai sakau, kažkiek aptarsim, pasižiūrėsim. Pirmam antram kvietimui, kad čia produkto verslo modelis, pajamų generavimas. Vėlgi, pajamų generavimas verslo modelis, kiek jisai geras, išdirbtas pas jūs, aprašytas, atitinkamai daugiau balų. Inovacijos reikšmingumo lygis. Čia pagal tokį Oslo manualą yra vertinama, bet ar tai inovacija, sakykime, jūsų įmonės mastu, ar Lietuvos mastu, ar pasaulio. Čia mes turim įmonės Lietuvos pasaulio. Jeigu nori pasaulio 5 balai, kuo mažiau, tuo mažiau. Ar pareiškėjas turi kompetencijos? Standartiškai, timas, svarbu, parodot, kad turit kompetencijas, valio, neturit, sugalvosim. Dar projektą prisidedat nuosavom, irgi atitinkamai 15%, 20 000 aplainam, 15%, kiek čia 3 000, jeigu įnešit savo 3 000, 5 balai. Svarbu, žinot, tuos balus rinkti svarbu, konkurencija buvo didelė, labai didelis laikas buvo, kai paros nebuvo, aplamai tai visi verslai, čia bus reiklių krūvos, bet mes galim irgi pasispardyti. Ir dar jeigu dalyvavot akceleratoriui, tai valio 5 balai, jeigu ne, tai ne. Tai sakau, dar negalutinis variantas, laukiu galutinio, paskelbsiu Slack'e, tada jeigu atsiras norinčių ratas, tai tada diskutuosim, kažkaip praeisim tą kelią, bet tikrai nenorėčiau, kad čia matytumėt challenge'ą ir dėl to nesudalyvautumėt. Turit idėją, turit kažką nuveikę universitetuose, darbuose, kažkokių side projekčiukų, kažką, tai išneškim į dienos šviesą. Tai gal ir tiek, dėkui. Klausimų. Čia labai trumpai sakau, čia toksai.
Questions?
Yeah, questions. Andrius Marcinkevičius, yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. No presentation, no contacts, but somehow find it.
Tu, Andriu, atsakinėk į klausimus.
Manau, kad nereikia. Vėlgi, jeigu ten balų rinksi 3 000 savo, šiaip matai kaip, agentūra galia paprašys turbūt, iki penktadalius nemokėjo darbo užmokesčio ir po paslaugos dirbo sutartėlę, kai čia kampai 20 000 parodyti kažkaip reikės, kad
Tai gali nebūti nepatenkinti.
Taip, bet čia nėra to, kad tu čia neši vėliau jo įsipareigojimų. Čia iš savo įmonės minimum, ištaškiai pats kalbas.
Dar trumpai pertausiu. Tai va čia kontaktas per šitą Slack'ą, per šitą linką, kurį rasite, atėję informacijos į mūsų tinklapį, useful information. Ir čia, ir main page, sako Linas, dar yra Slack'as. Tai per Slack'ą ar per LinkedIn'ą ir su Andrium susitiksit.
We have a time, nothing like I said, it's burning at the moment, but yeah, we really want to help for this young generation. Beautiful. Thank you.
I think now we have pizza. Icebreaking game. I don't know what's the game. What is the game?
Icebreaker.
Okay, we start with icebreaking game. So tell us what to do. Icebreaking game.
So let's try. We have a game, and then we'll have people. So the intention here is, again, I cannot do two things, talk and tell you what it is at the same time. So the intention is, you heard about the financing. Now you need to find partners to do this project with. You cannot do it alone. It's very hard. Nobody does startup alone. There is to do that, where could you find these potential partners for your startup with all this potential financing? Right here. So how it will go. So first, we'll do the game. The game will involve you meeting people from here. After the game, I encourage you to eat pizza and continue discussing ideas or whatever with the people that you have met in the game. So that's the plan. What's the game? The game is like meeting people whom you don't know in this room. So the first step is you need to get like a piece of paper or your phone, and you need to create this list of 5 empty slots. You don't need to take photos of that. You'll need to fill in the details later. So you'll need to actually make a list of 5 items.
Now?
Yep, now. The time is now. All done? So the next part is going to be a bit more tricky. So now you need to stand up. I forgot to use my mic, that people in the end can hear. So now that you're standing up, go to 5 people whom you don't know and add in your details, your name and like your surname, so remember the person, at a certain time slot. So how this works, let's role play it. Let's say we both agree to meet at the second time slot. You can imagine that's like 2 p.m. So I add Jeff at 2, Jeff adds Dovydas at 2. I meet with Linas, let's meet at 5. So we have a meeting at 5, Linas adds my name, I add Linas' name. So your objective is to fill all the slots, and remember, you have to agree at the same time. It's going to be the meeting time for you. At the 5th time slot, I'm meeting with Linas. At the 2nd one, I'm meeting with Jeff. At the 1st one, I'm meeting with Camilla, and you'll do it like that. So you have 3 minutes to get in these 5 names. Go. Give me a second, aš noriu šitą išjungti ir tiesioginę transliaciją. So that's all for people at home. Bye bye.